This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. Rob. You make it sound so easy. I'll leave this matter to you then. Baiming Lifeng coldly snorted, his face dark. He beckoned a disciple over and whispered a few words into that person's ear. That disciple immediately nodded and ran down. After a while, the speed of the entire warship suddenly slowed down and finally stopped on the sea, motionless. We're out of meta stones. Don't leave, everyone, Baiming Lifeng spread out his hands. Everyone smiled wryly. Ever since the starship had broken through the Eastern Sea defense line, it had been running out of vital stones. Although Baiming Lifeng's actions were a little shameless, this was indeed a big problem that had to be solved. Yunxiao was also speechless. He turned to Water Deity and said, Princess Water Fairy, use your eyes of truth to see if there are any origin crystal resources in the nearby sea region? Shui Xian nodded and flew into the sky. The white brocade was free of patterns and dust, which was pleasing to the eye. She made a hand seal and pointed it directly between her eyebrows. Her eyes turned golden and she stared at the sea. Her white robes flickered with golden light from time to time. It was the same kind of power as the Eye of Truth, the power of the Bo family's bloodline. Shui Xian looked very carefully. After a while, she flew down and pointed to a sea in the distance. There's a low-quality crystal mine down there. Then, he pointed in another direction and said, about 30 nautical miles from here, there's a B-class race. They probably have a lot of origin crystals. Everyone was shocked and looked at him in horror. Was this for real? He could even tell? Everyone was suspicious and found it hard to believe. Yes. Yunxiao nodded and said, it's too time-consuming to extract that inferior essence crystal mine vein. I wonder if Guang Yuan and the others have caught up. When everyone heard the name of Guang Yuan, they all shivered in their hearts, their faces turning pale. Baiming Lifeng's expression turned ugly as well. He looked back with some fear and said to Water Deity, is Princess Water Fairy really sure that there are B-class sea tribes 30 nautical miles in this direction? Water Deity nodded. Those marine race members are all carrying turtle shells. They must be some kind of turtle race. When Baiming Lifeng saw that she had even revealed the other party's appearance, he no longer had any doubts and ordered, full speed ahead, target 30 nautical miles southeast. Boom boom boom. The battleship set off again and flew forward at high speed. Li Yunxiao, Baiming Lifeng said, I'll leave the matter of snatching the origin crystals to you later. Our Baiming family is one of the super forces, the orthodox lineage of the world. We won't do such a thing. Are you looking down on us? Yunxiao sneered. Are you looking down on us? So what if I look down on you? Baiming Lifeng sneered. It's nothing, Yunxiao said with a smile. It's just that someone once asked me, there are people in the world who slander me, insult me, belittle me, laugh at me, bully me, and insult me. How should I deal with them? Can you guess how I answered? What did he say? Baiming Lifeng asked with a frown. Yunxiao's eyes turned cold as he said, just beat him, 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 beat him. After you're done, look at him. Baiming Lifeng was taken aback, especially by Yunxiao's cold eyes, which were staring at him. He broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly jumped away as he shouted, what do you want to do? I don't want to do anything, Yunxiao said coldly. I just want to ask, who will go down and snatch the crystals later? Baiming Lifeng swallowed a mouthful of saliva and said, how about this? It's just a B-class race. We'll just send 10 people from each race down. Soon, the warship arrived above the sea pointed out by the water fairy. Led by Liao Yangbing, Yunxiao sent 10 people each into the sea. Soon after, there were faint sounds of fighting and the bottom of the sea flickered. In less than an hour, those 20 people had rushed up unscathed, each of them smiling. Obviously the harvest was not small. A large number of origin crystals fell on the battleship, as well as a large number of various natural treasures. Everyone's eyes bulged out, regretting that they had not gone down. The wealth of the sea race's treasures was far beyond what humans could imagine. Especially when they saw the satisfied looks on the faces of those 20 people, no one would believe that they didn't have any hidden treasures. It's a lot more than I expected, Bai Ming Lifeng said in surprise. It should be able to last for a while. Just as the warship was about to set sail again, a ray of light suddenly flew over from the end of the sea. It was exactly what they had heard, and everyone's faces instantly changed, all of them panicking. Not good. Full speed ahead. Bai Ming Lifeng was also greatly shocked. Everyone stood on the deck, nervously looking at the golden lotuses flying over from the distance. In the few breaths after the warship had started, many more had flown in. Advance at full speed while activating the main offensive formation. We can't let that lotus seat get close. Bai Ming Lifeng shouted. Boom. The warship gradually accelerated and soon reached its limit. The powerful airflow was separated, and even the sea thousands of meters below was separated by the huge force, setting off stormy waves. At the same time, all the attack formations of the warship were activated, blasting towards the lotus in the distance. A cold expression appeared on Guang Yuan's face, and he said, Brother Yu Qing, with such a short distance, why don't you teleport over and kill them all? Lord Guang Yuan, you think too highly of me, Bo Yuqing said. Even if I was at my peak, I wouldn't be able to withstand the joint forces of Bai Ming Kongtian, the ministers, and Yunxiao, let alone the fact that my essence energy has not recovered yet. I suggest we use the lotus to destroy their ship. That way, we'll be undefeatable. Guang Yuan said, I've thought of this plan as well. Amitabha's speed may be faster than that battleship, but the other party's attack power is too strong. If we dodge like this, we'll never be able to get close. How about this? Bo Yuqing said. I'll use a spatial secret technique to teleport Lord Guang Yuan over first. Lord Guang Yuan has eaten 2 class members of the Sea tribe along the way. I'm sure he wants to find a place to move around and digest it. I also have a secret technique that can temporarily suppress Sir's injuries and allow you to unleash your peak power, he said, his eyes flashing. Guang Yuan was startled, and immediately said in great joy, wonderful. If I had this secret technique, I would only need to recover to my peak for the time it takes to brew a cup of tea to kill them all. However, what are the after effects of this secret technique? The side effect is that after some time, your injuries will double, Bo Yuqing said. Guang Yuan's heart trembled, and he revealed a shocked expression. He was clearly hesitating. Bo Yuqing laughed. Lord Guang Yuan, you don't have to worry. Your injuries at the moment have already been suppressed by Amitabha. Even after using the secret technique, it might not be as serious as I said. It's just a matter of eating more experts after the matter. Guang Yuan nodded lightly and said, You're right. It's more or less enough to swallow all the guests and officials. Besides, Yunxiao's mystic artifact and this 9th-tier warship are the ingredients for my lotus throne. Since your excellency has decided, then I'll have to offend you. Bo Yuqing said solemnly. He gave a light shout, and several rays of golden light shot out from his hands. Both his hands continued to cast spells, forming several strange patterns in the air, which he then pressed down on Guang Yuan. Bang! 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 With a series of loud sounds, a bloody hole appeared on Guang Yuan's chest. He gave a muffled groan, but his eyes gradually revealed a look of shock and wild joy. As expected, the injuries that have troubled me for decades are gradually disappearing. Guang Yuan laughed heartily and kept the rapidly advancing Ryu Yuan into his glabella. Bo Yuqing's face was a little pale, but he didn't dare to stop. His hands quickly formed seals, and an extremely strong mental power emitted from between his brows, directly twisting the space and creating a vortex that instantly sucked Guang Yuan in. The next moment, there was a muffled sound in the sky tens of thousands of meters away, and Guang Yuan suddenly appeared. He looked ahead and saw that there were only a few thousand meters left to the 9th-grade battleship. He laughed wildly and threw out the Dharma Golden Lotus. Stepping on it, he chased after it like lightning. Not good. The people on the battleship were all panicking. Looking at Guang Yuan's savage face and his constantly licking mouth, each and every one of them felt a chill run down their spines. Looking at the surging power around Guang Yuan, he doesn't seem to be injured, the guest said with a grave expression. If they had been chasing us all the way, Yunxiao said, they should have caught up with us a long time ago. If he only caught up now, he must have encountered a powerful sea tribe member on his way here and had a sumptuous meal. Everyone trembled as they looked at Yunxiao resentfully. He had really touched a sore spot. They were all powerful martial artists, and their fear of death was not so strong. What they were afraid of was being eaten. The guest turned back and said, "Old man Baiming, why don't we all join forces and kill Guang Yuan? If we can't work together, we'll be digested and turned into feces." These words hit everyone's weak spot. Suddenly, everyone realized that they would rather self-destruct in battle than be eaten. Baiming Kongtian's heart was also covered in cold sweat. He said in a deep voice, "Good. Let's put aside our personal grudges for now." The aura on Guang Yuan's body was extremely strong, much stronger than when he was on Xiankong Island. On the way, he had swallowed 2 class members of the Sea tribe and turned them into his supplements. The sound of chanting could be heard faintly in the air. The golden lotus between Guang Yuan's brows flickered, and his entire body was covered in a brilliant golden light, as if a god had descended into the world. All laws have no self, no man, no life. He spoke in the dragon language, and a vast power slowly pressed down like the moon and clouds. The entire 9th grade battleship rumbled, and the warriors on it had cold sweat on their hands. They stared at him vigilantly, afraid that he would suddenly grow his head and eat people. All of a sudden, the attack formations were all activated, all of them locked onto the slowly descending Guang Yuan, and all of them blasted out at once. Boom boom boom. Dozens of attacks of all kinds were launched, and they carried extremely powerful sound waves. There was even a soul attack array, and it was an all-out attack. When all the light rays blasted close to Guang Yuan, they were actually blocked by an invisible force, unable to advance an inch further. Yunxiao's pupils constricted and he looked horrified as he cried out, "Not good." An intermediate 9-star martial emperor's power. Everyone was greatly shocked, and their hearts were filled with coldness and desolation. The 9 stars martial sovereign realm was the last realm in martial Dao. Every step was extremely difficult. Without great perseverance, great talent, and great opportunities, it was difficult to make any progress. Guang Yuan's face was solemn, and he shouted, "Open." Boom. All the power on the battleship was shaken off by him, and the scattered force fell down like rain, falling onto the battleship. "Spread out." Baiming Kongtian shouted, and the warriors on the deck scattered like ants. The defensive light was instantly broken through, and all the attacks fell on the warship. Boom. 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 Beams of light shot up from the warship, destroying a large area of the hull. Everyone's heart turned cold. The faces of the ministers and Baiming Kongtian also turned pale, as if the end of the world had arrived. Guang Yuan laughed heartily. "I haven't had such a feeling in a long time. I really miss it." A cold glint flashed in his eyes. He put 2 fingers together into the sword and slashed down. Boom. A huge hole was created on the battleship, directly cutting into the interior. Ka ka ka. All sorts of cracking sounds could be heard from the crack. What a huge ingredient. Guang Yuan's eyes lit up, and the lotus platform between his brows flashed. Amitabha flew into his palm, and then he threw it into the air, and it fell down. The petals on the lotus platform bloomed one by one, and the golden light jumped like flames. The power of the weapon spirit rose up from the 9th grade battleship and was all sucked in, especially from a crack on the deck. Large amounts of spiritual power poured out and were absorbed by the light. Guang Yuan could also be considered a genius. In the process of constantly thinking of ways to refine Amitabha, he had simulated Amitabha's absorption power and created the evil technique of directly eating people and absorbing their cultivation, which he had also used to the point of perfection. Amitabha stood more than 10 meters above the battleship, devouring the power of the weapon spirit like a blood-sucking bug. Guang Yuan, on the other hand, descended from the sky, his 2 feet on the deck. He looked at the crowd with a ferocious expression, constantly licking his lips, and revealing a ghastly smile. "I'm going to kill you." One of the human warriors finally couldn't stand the fear and went completely crazy. The airflow in his dantian rotated and shot out of his body. He roared and rushed forward, wanting to self-destruct. Guang Yuan's expression was cold. He flicked his finger lightly, and a strong gust of wind instantly shot out. With a poppy sound, it entered the body of that person. Boom. Before that person could even reach him, he was directly blown to pieces, large pieces of flesh scattered on the ground, a shocking sight. Everyone's hair stood on end. The guest roared in shock, "Let's go all out. Otherwise, only death awaits." Rays of light burst out from his body, and 4 light spots appeared on his forehead and chest. They were where the 4 doors were. Soon after, golden light circulated around his body, and countless complicated lines were condensed. One after another, formation diagrams appeared on his body, and his power began to multiply. Kwafu chasing the sun. Die. The guest roared as his fist broke through the void like a bolt of lightning. Baiming Kongtian's body also burst out with a cold light, causing a natural phenomenon to descend. His hands quickly formed a seal in front of him, forming a pattern. Swift as a startled swan. That cold light gathered into a single move and blasted towards Guang Yuan. At the same time, Yunxiao summoned the Calabash King Kong and the giant crocodile, both of whom were roaring with ferocious faces. The giant crocodile turned into a ball of fire in the air, rolling away with a faint red blaze like a comet or a meteorite. The gored little King Kong's eyes narrowed into 2 beans, and he struck out with his King Kong fist. The entire surrounding space was sucked in, and the ice fiend heart flame was also shot out. Guang Yuan laughed coldly, but when he saw the ice fiend heart flame, his body could not help but tremble. A hint of fear flashed across his face, and he became even more savage. Mixed element chi. He formed a hand seal in front of him and suddenly opened it. Bang. The 4 extremely powerful attacks were blocked by his barrier and were unable to get close. Everyone's expression changed greatly. "Ants, is this all you've got? If that's the case, then all of them can go into my stomach." Guang Yuan laughed wildly. He opened a barrier with one hand and formed a seal with the other. Divine seals danced in his hand. Everyone trembled, and one person roared, "Let's go all out." Nearly 100 martial artists' faces were ashen as they displayed all kinds of trump cards. For a moment, hundreds of flowers bloomed and hundreds of birds chirped. Guang Yuan's expression changed slightly. The power of the barrier was instantly forced down, causing him to be greatly alarmed. He had not underestimated the strength of these people, but their determination. "Humph, do you really think that you can kill an elephant with numbers?" The Shin methodology in Guang Yuan's hands spread out, and the Ryuan floating in the air brightened with light, slowly floating in the air. Under the pressure of the transcendent grade profound level weapon, it was like a vast ocean, causing everyone to feel a sense of despair. However, everyone's faces were ashen, and they would rather die than fight. Yunxiao's eyes flickered with coldness as well, and a light flickered between his brows, then a vast force descended from the sky. Eh? What is this? Everyone's hearts jolted. They saw a monument descend from the sky, and the surroundings became hazy. A magnificent power was emitted, directly pressing down on the magnificent Dharma Lotus throne. This is a Swan and Ice supergrade profound level weapon? Guang Yuan's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. He knew that Yunxiao had a supreme grade profound artifact, the cauldron of mountain and river, but the thing that was falling from the sky was obviously not a big cauldron. Did he have 2 supreme grade profound artifacts? Guang Yuan shook his head repeatedly, not believing it at all. He had a supreme grade profound level weapon, so he was very clear about the difficulty of refining a supreme grade profound level weapon. Even a 9-star martial emperor would need great power and luck to completely refine one. It would not only be a waste but also a death wish if he had 2 at the same time. This was also the reason why he agreed to Yu Buqing's request for the cauldron of mountain and river. Such a treasure was enough to last a lifetime. Boom. Just as Guangyuan was in shock, the Divine Realm tablet pressed directly on Amitabha. Under the collision of the two supergrade profound artifacts, boundless spiritual pressure was squeezed out with a loud bang, shooting out in all directions. The vast power spread out endlessly and swept out in all directions. Guangyuan's expression changed drastically. His primordial chaos barrier was already in imminent danger under everyone's united attacks, so how could it possibly withstand the impact of this vast power? In this crisis, he changed his hand seal and shouted, "Primordial Chaos Chi, Tao," turning into nothingness. The barrier's power was suddenly retracted and compressed to the extreme in an instant. It gathered in his hands and suddenly exploded. Boom. An extremely fierce mixed essence power bloomed in front of him and collided with everyone's attacks, forming an extremely powerful storm. The storm spread out, clashing with the spiritual pressure from the two transcendent grade profound level weapons, forming an even larger storm, swallowing Guangyuan whole and pressing down on the battleship. Everyone was shocked, but the life and death in front of them was much better than being eaten. Everyone tried their best to escape in all directions, but the violent energy pressure directly shook the space. How could they escape? Yeah. Vajra fist. The minister roared, and Saint Wheels emerged on his body. He threw a punch into the distance. Bang. The pressure was instantly shattered, and a passage was opened in the spatial seal. Follow me. He shouted and turned into a stream of light and rushed out. As if they had seen a life-saving straw, everyone followed him and fled in an instant. Only Yunxiao and Water Deity were left standing on the warship. Yunxiao's entire body was golden, but his face was extremely pale. Originally, his primordial power had not recovered much, and it was extremely difficult for the Divine Realm tablet to fight against Amitabha. At this moment, he was being devoured by the power of the huge profound artifact. Even his indestructible golden body could not resist it, and his whole body trembled violently. Let's go. Why are you still standing there? Just wait for death. Yunxiao roared as he looked at Shui Xian, who was standing there stupidly, with both shock and anger. You go with us. Shui Xian said anxiously. You'll die if that force comes down on you. Yunxiao was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood as he roared, "Pig teammates. If you had escaped, I would have taken the Divine Realm tablet and run away. Who would still stand here and fight to the death? Hurry up and run." Shui Xian was stunned and tears almost came out of her eyes. So he was waiting for her to leave first. She hurriedly turned around and transformed into a ray of light. The golden armored guard blasted a path in front of her and she immediately flew out. After distancing herself from the violent energy, Shui Xian shouted desperately, "Li Yunxiao, come out." Pfft. Yunxiao coughed up a mouthful of blood. It was not only the backlash from the profound artifact, but also the boundless pressure that descended, which even his indestructible golden body could not withstand. Oh. What a touching story. Guangyuan's voice rang out from within the energy storm, his figure faintly discernible within. In the center of the terrifying energy storm, he was already standing on Amitabha. The Divine Realm tablet was pressed down and kept falling toward the warship. Yunxiao's body was suppressed by the huge pressure, and even moving consumed a great deal of essence energy. Is it worth it to give up your chance to survive just to pick up a girl? Guangyuan's cold voice was heard. His face was cold, and there was even a hint of mockery at the corner of his mouth. Bah. Yunxiao spat out a mouthful of blood and said with a cold smile, "What does it have to do with you that I'm picking up girls? Do whatever you want." Why, are you unhappy? Guangyuan's expression darkened. He snorted angrily. A human like you is really disgusting. It's even revolting to eat you. He performed the incantation gesture with his hands, and the Sanskrit dragon language sounded in the air. Everything has its own laws. They are like dreams and bubbles, like fog and lightning. They should be observed as such. Boom. The area of the boundless storm increased once again, and heaven's might poured down. Not to mention Yunxiao, even the ninth-grade warship, Evil Voodoo, began to break under the boundless force. Come out, Li Yunxiao. Quickly come out. Water deity was very anxious. Tears streamed down her face. She gritted her teeth and wanted to rush in to save her. Pa. The guest grabbed her and said coldly, stand aside, I'll do it. Although he spoke in an overbearing manner, his eyes were filled with solemnness and even despair as he looked at the increasingly large energy storm.